let's move on to Tenet box office. And here I'm going to remind everybody that we are not, or we have said that we're not going to make
we might, but we've said we're not going to.
We're committing to the bit of not giving away stuff about Tenet because we know that a lot of people are still listening to the show and haven't yet had a chance to see it, especially as it's struggling to find places to play in large spaces like New York and Los Angeles, where we have a lot of ReelBlend listeners. But we want to talk specifically about how it's doing at the box office and what the indications are for that specifically. The movie did 20 million domestically in its first weekend. Gabe, you have 126 international, but it's not that, right? It's
That's
more
international markets. Worldwide 146.
So worldwide 146.
Yes. Okay. I left a little bit of math for you to do, Sean.
And the combination that we think we've heard is that, what did we say, 450?
I read multiple places that 450 is the break-even number.
That's a lot of money. That is a lot of money for a movie to make.
Not normally in real world, in a real world scenario where things weren't, in the middle of a worldwide pandemic, 450 shouldn't be that tough for a Christopher Nolan summer blockbuster.
No, not at all.
Even Dunkirk, which I would say is one of the harder sells of his career, got to that point or past that point, right, Kevin?
Dunkirk made over 500 million.
Yeah, so I don't think Tenet would have had an issue.
And Kevin's good for 500,000 himself individually. So
Dunkirk made 526 on $100 million budget.
So Tenet shouldn't have had an issue.
So it's impossible not to judge these numbers against the idea of how theaters are opening.
Yeah.
And people who are trying to compare it to past openings of other films, it just seems that's ridiculous. Like all of those normal measures feel out the window at this point for me. So when I saw 20 million, my initial reaction actually was, damn, that's really good, because I thought that all theaters are at reduced capacity. Not even the majority of theaters are I guess the majority of theaters in the country are open, right?
Sean, here is the major thing that we have to remind people of. It's the theaters are not open in New York or Los Angeles, two of the largest movie markets in the entire country, and San Francisco. And every theater that's open is between 25 to 40% capacity.
Yes.
And I think like 65 to 70% of the theaters in the country are open. Those are all you need to know to realize that the numbers that we're seeing for Tenet cannot be judged against anything.
In that case, 20 is pretty good.
Yeah, to give that some perspective, the widest release right now domestically for Tenet is 2,800 theaters, 2,800 limited capacity theaters. The widest release domestically for Dunkirk was 4,000 theaters, fully packed.
Oh my God!
I am much more interested in Tenet's week 2 numbers than I am week 1.
Okay.
Now, if it plummets from 20 million to 5 million, that's when I start thinking, okay, maybe people aren't just aren't ready to go back to the theaters yet. But if it goes from 20 million to 15 million, okay, like because it may also and also you have to keep in mind, it's not just how many theaters it's playing in or the capacity in which the theaters are allowing people to come in. It's also an X factor of like, are people ready to go back to has nothing to do with the quality of Tenet or if people want to see Tenet. It's whether or not people want to go to the movies, period.
Right.
And I think that's an immeasurable factor.
So, Kev, as someone who's gone back multiple times, what has the experience been in terms of other people who are there? What does the theater look like when you go?
It's a good question.
So I've found it to be a very personally a very safe experience. Now, that being said, my mom and dad wouldn't go to a theater right now, even if you paid them to. Like, there are people who just don't want to go to a movie theater.
And they are theater people. They go.
They go once a week.
Yeah.
They went once a week before the pandemic. And they will not go. They won't even come see me now that I've been to a movie theater, basically.
Right.
They just don't want to see you.
They just don't want to see me. Yeah. I don't blame them.
And people are coming. You're surrounded by people? A good amount of people?
Yeah, I mean, it was like, for me, it was me and my wife and her friend Lauren, and then there were like people scattered throughout the theater in their different sections. Everyone had a mask on. I did not have an issue. The only difference I will point out to the experience we talked about last week versus the experience this week. Last week I went to an early access showing on a Monday. This was a Saturday opening weekend normal public showing of the film.
That was the true example of probably what people experienced.
And I actually saw, this was actually kind of cool. So not only did I got my concessions and all that kind of stuff, but I used the sanitizer wipes. I wiped down my seats. When the movie ended, I walked out. There were 4 AMC employees standing there with these gigantic yellow sanitizing machines.
Oh, that's cool.
Wow.
And they were all ready to go in, and they actually make more time in between the shows now so they can clean the entire theater. I'm not kidding when I say this. I would feel comfortable eating off the armrest of my seat.
I would never go that far.
That's how clean it was, man. Wow. I'm telling you, I've never seen. I've walked through theaters with sticky stuff on my feet, armrests having all that gunk and nasty stuff in it. For me, it was like I felt like I had a private theater.
You know, but unfortunately, all those machines were inverted, so whenever they went in, all the sanitation just came off the seats and went back into the big yellow machines.
I'm torn between theaters that have cloth seats now versus the ones that are more like that vinyl material. Or
this was like a leather, like the leather recliners, and for me, again, it was it was cool because it was noon on a Saturday and people were just rolling in. It was like the old days. People were just walking in. Everyone looked excited. Everyone had masks on. It didn't feel that weird, to be honest with you. But again, personal threshold, whatever you're comfortable with.
I agree 100% with Jake that the second week number is going to be really interesting to see. I don't expect it to. I would love it if it stayed consistent. I don't see it necessarily going up.
No, it's not going to go up.
I hope it doesn't come down a whole heck of a lot. What I hope that it does is send an indication to the other blockbusters that are behind it that it's okay to try it. Like, is Wonder Woman 1984 comfortable now? You know, are they going to use 20 as that mark? Like, okay, we'll be comfortable with a 20 million opening if we're able to go worldwide. It's gonna be interesting because
is there any chance that we get Tenet on PVOD within the coming weeks?
No. Where
they try out the hey, we'll put it in theaters for a month and then
any other movie, yes. That movie, no.
Okay.
I don't think Nolan would let that.
If Unhinged isn't on PVOD, Tenet's not coming.
Yeah, but the difference is that people want to see Tenet.
That's a good point.
I'm sorry for all the.
Oh my God!
All the big Unhinged.
Russell Crowe is going to be so mad at you.
I will say this: I do think Wonder Woman's going to have a bigger opening. It's a bigger film. Wonder Woman's a bigger film than Tenet. It is. I mean, Wonder Woman already, and it's a superhero film. It's name recognition. Tenet is an original film, story.
Arguably, a superhero movie should do better. A sequel should do better.
Yeah. I think Wonder Woman's going to have a bigger box office open. I don't think that's even a question of comparison because, like Tenet, for example, I'm sorry, Dunkirk. I think it was like a $55 million opening. I could be wrong. It's somewhere around the $50 million opening. And that was pre-pandemic and 4,000 screens. Then you had Tenet do 20 million on 2,800 screens with no New York, no LA, no San Francisco, and 30 to 40% capacity.
Here's the thing though. Nolan would earn waves of goodwill if he released it on paid VOD. If he just relented and let more people see it.
How long afterwards?
I say a month.
Yeah, I think a month is fair. Is fair. It's not. He got his theatrical run. Yeah. But there's people who physically are not able to go see it. You know, it's just there's no theater open near them. And if he believes in, I know he believes in the theatrical experience. I think that's amazing. But if he also just believes in the movie as itself, he should want more people to be able to see it. And so I think a month is fair.
I actually, and this is going to sound crazy as somebody who's we're all theater advocates. I mean, I'm seeing the film multiple times. I think after a month, I would think that's fair.
Kev, then you wouldn't have to go to the theaters.
Now. You could I'd still go to theaters. I would still go.
I do want to sort of throw something out there. I'm curious to Sean specifically if you agree with this. For people who are keeping up with the box office reporting and sort of the tracking, and be very weary of who's writing it and the potential slant that it's taken. And what I mean by that is
I know exactly who you're talking about.
A lot of press out there that are quite honestly annoyed or perhaps even borderline angry at Nolan and or Warner Brothers because either they haven't had a chance to see the film or potentially maybe they did not get Christopher Nolan for an interview. And that has the potential to, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that I have read some very interesting perceptions of how they're skewing these box office numbers. Yeah. And I can't help but feel like, do you just have a little bit of a chip on your shoulder because you haven't seen the movie yet? Like, are you rooting for it to fail unfairly because it has not benefited you personally? And so I would just say be careful reading any box office numbers that come to any kind of drastic conclusions without taking into account unprecedented worldwide events unlike anything Hollywood's ever dealt with.
It has been highly unusual to see noted film journalists take the stance of movies and movie theaters and movie studios should fail. Like, I don't understand that perspective.
I understand the idea of I am making a conscious choice to not go to the, like, that is your right, and that is a right I respect, and I understand. What I don't agree with is, and I've seen this, and I know you guys, I assume you guys have seen it too. It does seem like there are people who are actively rooting for Tenet to be a disaster to almost justify their choice. Like it almost feels like, especially a lot of the people that are in New York or LA, like, I couldn't be a part of this, therefore I hope this movie fails.
I want to ask a hypothetical. If this was not Tenet, but it was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, do you think people would be taking the same stance, or would they be championing Quentin fighting to get his movie into theaters?
It does almost feel like like people have their like the knives out for Nolan. Like, I feel like there's something of, like, as much as we love Nolan, and
that was Rian Johnson's movie.
Hey, eat shit. But it sort of feels like people kind of have been coming for Nolan.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That if Quentin was the one pushing this, I think there's a lot more people in the film Twitter atmosphere that would be backing Quentin.
Yeah, he has
in a way that they are not backing.
But what did Nolan do?
He's just made a string of amazing films.
And Quentin hasn't?
I don't know. I don't know.
Can we be clear here that Nolan is not forcing anyone to go to a movie theater?
No.
There's no forcing happening here.
Nor
it's
is
just
he,
a choice.
Exactly. Yes. And so
choice. Yeah.
I would love to hear his take on the box office. I really would. I'd love to know what his opinions are. Whether he's happy with this, sad with this, but he'll never comment because it doesn't benefit him in either way, shape, or form.